Welcome to Critical Café,
Join us as we chat about the latest episode,
the campaign as a whole, and Critical Role in general.
all while we partake in a delicious cup of coffee. So grab yourself a tasty beverage
Settle into your favorite cozy spot.
and get ready for a little geek philosophy. Welcome to Critical Cafe, where we talk about all kinds of things Critical Role. My name's Brian, and this is Crystal.
Hi.
Hey. And we're going to jump in pretty quickly because we got a lot to talk about in this latest show. So just want to remind everybody, please add your comments to the chat if you are joining us live. We will take breaks to check the chat and discuss the episode as we go. So feel free to do that. If you're catching this on the replay, on the video on demand, just go ahead and leave a comment if you have questions or you want to chime in on anything because you didn't get a chance to catch us live. That's okay. If you want to support the channel, the Geek Philosophy channel as a whole, just make sure you subscribe, like, comment, do all those things. You could also support us by buying a cup of coffee. The link is in the description below if you like and if you so choose. All right, let's get rolling.
Yes.
Jump right in. So here we go. So as always, we are gonna head over to Danny Carr's amazing critical recap. She does such a great job of this every episode of linking to the episode, but also providing a good breakdown of all the major segments that happen. So starts out with reuniting the party, because if we remember from last show, the party was split. So we ended with a split party. So we've got FCG and Fern are on the skyship, along with Ira Wendigoth. So they're up there, with him, and they're trying to sort of see what's going on. While they're there, Ira uses his face spyglass to see what's going on, and he notices that the key is a little different. One of the lenses is missing. And then FCG and Ira kind of have a conversation about what they hope to see. Ira kind of wants destruction because he wants to punish everybody that has wronged them. And then FCG and Fern sort of have a little bit of a discussion along with Ira about Ira and Fern's ability to kind of find inspiration in the moment and kind of live in the moment. And that's kind of when Ira says, hey, friends may not be the best way to go. It complicates things. There's a message between Orem and FCG, lets them know that they have made some new friends, alluding to Bo and Caleb. And they could use some advice about this robot that they now have. So they decide to join their friends. Slight bit of metagaming maybe, but I think it's good. So when they go that route, they go down, or they decide to head that way. Meanwhile, the other part of the group is taking a short rest, and they're sort of patrolling things. And then Laudna convinces them that they're going to be fixing the warder, the automaton that's there. And then finally the party regroups, and FCG kind of checks out the automaton and finds out that the power core is fried, but he's able to hook in and control things almost like he is wearing it like a suit of armor. So all right, let's jump over to the chat, and hey, Laura, how's it going? Good to see you in the chat.
Yes.
Hello. I'm glad you were able to join us today. So what are your thoughts on the whole opening of the show, Crystal? I know we were kind of splitting the party at the end, and now we're a little bit back together now. So
yeah. Well, I think the interesting thing that is, to note is the whole conversation that Ira has about having friends, and how he prefers not to have friendships because they complicate things. So I think that that's a little alarming to the group because, they're kind of hinging on him to finish this plan off with the skyship. Last minute, the group on the ground decides, okay, we've killed this robot. How can we use it? So then they contact Orem and FCG, not Orem, FCG and Fern. And then the next thing you know, split second decision, they're on their way. And then that just leaves Ira with, oh gosh, what's his name? The captain.
Xandus?
Yes, Captain Xandus. And he's in charge of making sure that Captain Xandus gets off of the ship alive. And he does give his word, so we're hoping that that's worth something. And then off go, Fern and FCG to try to get to the party on the ground. So we'll see. I felt like that was a really fast, like you said, a little bit of metagaming, because in the message, they didn't say come. They were just talking about what was kind of going on.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you knew, they were on their way.
Yeah.
So,
it works out. Forgive that a little bit. Like,
right.
I mean, that's the realistic part of playing a D&D game, right? Like, there's always going to be a level of, what's happening with the other half of your group, and whether it's metagaming or not, they do their best not to do that, I think.
Right.
In a lot of cases, and a lot of the decisions they make, they even say, I'm trying not to metagame right here.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it just makes sense for them to be together. So hopefully everybody can kind of forgive them a little bit on that. But yeah, I thought it was just sort of an interesting point that you made about Ira, and the friendship thing, and like whether or not he's going to follow through. And we kind of see how that plays out a little bit as the show goes on. But yeah, I'm glad they got together early in this episode. So.
Well, and I think that was kind of some of it too. I mean, yes, metagaming, but in the same instance, they're really, I think, trying to get things rolling in this game. I think they're ready to see some action, So I think that was probably part of why the decision was what it was for them to join them and try to get into kind of the thick of things quicker than sitting on the ship and trying or messaging back and forth and wasting more spell slots. So
yeah, and lots of stuff happens. And I've got so many theories, but you want to keep moving? Because that was just the beginning. So let's jump back in.
Sorry, guys, this cat's going crazy. So if y'all see him in a little bit, he's all over the place.
So what you didn't see, Crystal, because you were talking and probably not paying attention to your background, but the rest of us may have seen. And again, watch this on replay and you will see the plan of attack. He jumps up. At some point, you can see him walking around, him jumping up and then making his way around the area. This time he ended up on the other side. So it's kind of nice that we can all see his stealth check as he's going, and you're the only one that's unaware.
My familiar.
Stealth check. All right, so into the pit. So FCG is now, like we said, is piloting his Jaeger, right? Like he's piloting his 16-foot tall automaton. And he's got space inside to kind of get everybody in there, with the exception of Imogen. Imogen's the only one that's not, right? And which makes sense, because Imogen at least has that cover story of saying that she's part of this group and she's going there. So they also, message Keyleth. There's a little thing between FCG and Pate that goes on. But then they message Keyleth, give her an update. They said it's about an hour before she'll get there with the cavalry, so it's time to get ready. They start going deeper into this pit, and General Ratanish of Paragon's Call is sort of the person that they're interacting with as they go. Orem is basically playing possum, and Imogen is really pushing the fact that she's exultant, that she's one of the key people in this whole deal. And though they get some information as they go down, and finally they actually watch Odahan get her backpack kind of filled with the potions that we've seen her use before, with these potions of possibility, more Dunamancy stuff that we have sort of picked up little bit by little bit as the campaign is going. Odahan leaves through one of the other tunnels, one of the ones that they've just excavated, and they spot the Plane Rider Rin statue, basically at this point, the one that has been petrified, missing an arm, if I remember right.
No.
Something. Oh no, not yet.
That
That's
happens
right.
later.
It's not missing an arm. This happens. Spoiler.
It's
Alert,
foreshadowing.
there will be an arm missing eventually. And then
She's
Imogen
disarmed.
sees her mom flying around, basically just like telekinetic master. And I even remember seeing Laura say she's way more powerful than me. And then they see that the anti-magic pulse is kind of emanating from these arcane devices that are around. And that's sort of this next section of where we are so far. We move into the first tunnel next, but let's head over to the chat so we can discuss a little bit more. If we have any more comments in the chat, I'll bring them in. But yeah, so what do you think so far about their first entry into the pit?
I think it's pretty amazing. You know, there's so much going on. There's a bunch of people down there. We see Odahan, which first and foremost, I've said this time and time again. After that first encounter they had with her, where Laudna died, I would not be trying to mess with Odahan. That woman, no. We need to stay away from her as long as we can because she is going to kill somebody dead. So again,
yeah, she's already proven she can. Yeah,
right. So I get really, really scared whenever I see her in this, like in the episode once they've already come down into the pit, because I'm like, oh man, they don't have really anywhere to go. You know, everybody's hiding out inside of the automaton except for Imogen, and then she's got Orem as like a captive or something, and she tries to pass it off. She's acting super cocky, you know, like, don't talk to me, son, don't do this, you know, like, don't tell me what to do. And I'm like, oh, I hope this doesn't backfire, because they don't really know her. I'm hoping the fact that, you know, most of them are covered, and then the parts of her that aren't probably look a lot like her mom help.
That's true.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think that she's passing as her mother, but I think that people might recognize that there's a familial, you know, component to it. Maybe
there's a resemblance there, but also I think the fact that I think we also see that while there are there end up being a bunch of Rudis born there, not many exaltants. And the fact that she can pull that card, and that she's kind of like, people know that there's powerful enough beings there that if someone comes across like they are that, it's easier to pull off that deception, I think, especially if you have some power. So, you know, I think that's why Matt was even given some advantage on some rolls and stuff, because like she's able to act as if, right, the whole time. So really well done from a role-playing perspective. But I just, I'm also, again, usually blown away by how Matt does stuff, but it just feels like, you know, it's hard. It can be hard to describe things in a way that make you feel as if you're being immersed in the environment, and that the number of people that are there and what the surrounding looks like, and manage all of that so that you've got. Because, I mean, yes, he brings out the battle maps and he puts the thing down whenever it's time for combat and stuff. But until then, he's just painting the picture with his words. And you kind of have that. It matches what the battle map is. He's got it so well done with his descriptions that it really draws us in as people watching. But it makes the game better because the players feel that as they go. Oh, yeah, this is a great point. So Laura brings it, and Laura was not feeling well.
I know.
Voice,
poor
so
Laura.
scratchy. And you're right, it did add something. Like it ends up being like so interesting that like that was happening at the same time, and
so much more mysterious, like, you know.
Yeah. Well, for any of you guys that remember the old Friends episodes with Phoebe and the Smelly Cat song that she did when she was not feeling well, like it just reminded, every time someone's sick and they have that raspy voice, it just reminds me of an old friend. I'm showing my age, I guess, but anyway, but yeah, it's a good point. It added to the whole experience, I think, of the way she was sounding. It's pretty incredible. So all right, let's keep going, because you know we got a lot to get through here. All right, so into the pit, first tunnel. So this is where things start to really, pick up, so to speak, because they go into one of the tunnels and like FCG as the warder kind of lodges in place almost. That's about as much room as he's got, so that but in that position he can let everybody get out. Laudna sends Pate down the tunnel. Pate is an invisible form, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And so she can see what's going on. There's a cluster of arcane power sources that are all kind of almost wired together, so to speak. Guarded by people. 2 of them are Paragon's Call. 1 is a Dragonborn Exultant. You got Ashton, Orem, and Imogen that go to tell them that there are 3 down there, but they only see through, like, they see through this as they're kind of going to try to deceive them and say, well, we're the only 3 that are here. They get it, and immediately battle ensues, right? They roll for initiative, things going through. Orem kills the Exultant. Ashton kills one of the Paragon's Call. Chetney intimidates the second one, who, that was a really interesting scene of basically making him stand down, and then do what he needs to do. They also notice that the halfling is wearing a symbol of the Dusk Maven, and he explains that the Paragon's Call makes everyone wear them, which is really interesting to me. He warns them about the exploding glyph that's on the ground, and they find a locket on one of the Exultant's bodies, which has a little picture of a girl. And again, interesting. We'll talk about that too. FCG is still outside in the warder, and he's just trying to look busy by moving rocks. And he sees Odahan kind of coming. He sends a message to Laudna to warn, but Odahan's distracted because 2 of the anti-magic devices detonate. Probably it's Bo and Caleb doing their thing. Odahan leaves, but not before Imogen hits them with a psychic attack on their way out. And FCG throws a rock at them. And this is where some things happen. But FCG messages Ira, tells them to launch the airstrike, go ahead and start the descent. And then the others detonate a few of the arcane cores. Ashton kills the halfling because Chetney says take care of him, basically. And that's kind of where this scene ends. So let's jump back over. Lots of stuff happened in a really short period of time.
Yeah.
It was quick. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, so, Odahan is out in the big cavern at first. And then, is that when Ludinus shows up? Around that? Like, he shows up. Not yet? Okay,
Yeah.
so
I don't think.
Odahan is out in the big cavern. Then she turns around and goes down. There's these 2 side tunnels. And so she goes down the first side tunnel. So the group decides to go down the second side tunnel and to kind of see, like, what they can figure out, what they can find. So, like you said in the description, FCG kind of sticks the big body of the warder in the doorway, and then everybody climbs out into the tunnel. And then they get into this room and proceed to kill the 2, then intimidate the 1 into giving them as much information as he kind of could. But I don't think he really knew a whole lot. They tried at first to say that they were being relieved, that General Ratanish had called them kind of back. Yeah. And that's what they ended up seeing through. And so that started initiative. And, when it was all said and done, the 1 guy was still there. We had kind of the all moment because they found the locket on the 1 guy that was dead. And, Matt even made a comment of like, they have home lives too,
Yeah.
So,
and
you don't really ever know.
Well, and I think what he said, and this is what I think Travis caught onto this too, is he said, you don't know why they're there. Right. And I think Travis immediately goes, oh, or why maybe they're holding someone and forcing them to be there. Like, no one knows what the real reasons for everybody showing up there are. They could be blackmailed into doing what they're doing.
Coerced, blackmailed, threatened. There's any number of reasons. But, they end up, there's the detonation that goes off that they attribute to, Bo and Caleb. And then I think, doesn't Pate go over, and Laudna does like a lightning, shocking grasp onto the magical batteries that way to try to overpower them.
I
couldn't remember if that was kind of how they did that. Right. So
yeah.
they're going to try to disrupt these batteries. And I guess the people that were in there didn't really know a ton, except for, a few little things about how they were stuck together. So they're going to try their best to destroy this. But in the meantime, Odahan starts making her way around to come down into that tunnel. So, what, is the cat behind me again?
No, I just make it away.
Oh, okay. I was like, what am I doing?
You said,
just look at my face.
You said Odahan starts making her way around.
Make it away. Make it away.
Yeah, I can help. Yeah.
So Odahan starts on her way back, and they kind of see that in the orb, I guess. Laudna's trying to keep an eye out on that. And so they're trying to keep Odahan from discovering them. So they think that they need to create another distraction off somewhere else, so that she doesn't keep coming down the hallway or that tunnel to see them trying to bust up all these batteries. So, and then they just snap the neck of the other guy.
That was a little
murder hobo-y, but whatever.
It was, but it was a little rough. All right, let's keep going. I think I've got so many things, but I don't want to jump ahead because, man, I have theories. All right. So into the pit, first tunnel. It begins, and this is where we've got. Let me just say. It begins is where we are now. So FCG goes looking for Rin, spotting Lewdness. This is where Lewdness comes in at the base of the key, wearing ceremonial armor. FCG accidentally collapses the wall of the ruins on top of Rin. This is where the arm gets detached, unfortunately. Plays it off, but Lewdness deactivates the warder, leaving FCG trapped inside. So FCG's stuck at this point. Odahan makes a telepathic announcement telling everybody that their timetable is moving up and they need to gather at the key. As they exit the tunnel, they see Caleb is captured by one of those Mage Hunter golems. Bo is charmed, chained, like heavily chained.
Yeah.
And then they're brought in front of Lewdness, and then Rin is unearthed with the arm broken off, and then they want the enemies to see their failure. He wants it's just places his hand within the machine, fuels it with arcane power, and then Liliana opens up the sides of the key, and there is a Luxon beacon inside.
Mm-hmm.
As the device glows, everybody freezes. Then hours pass in seconds. Ruidus is directed overhead, but then the silver sun comes. So the skyship starts to fall. Lewdness throws up a force field to protect everything. It breaks. I really love the description here of all the rubble. He actually puts the rubble on the mat. You can kind of tell the people that are being killed as that's happening. There's several people everywhere. Ira and Xandus both appear on a walkway, so they're safe. And then Ira is off to go do some chaotic stuff. And Xandus basically says, I'm out of here. So he starts running away, which is smart. So that's where we are up to here. Again, let's jump over. So we've got poor terrible rolls from Liam and Marisha, the first of many to come. Yeah, absolutely. It's so heart-wrenching. But again, heart-wrenching, but all cool at the same time. Like the way this is coming together is really well done. The way Matt planned stuff, having them interact with the characters and their previous characters, it's pretty great. All right, so what are your thoughts up to what we just went over?
Well, like holy crap, I mean, Lewdness is like, all right guys, we got to speed this on along because people are coming to disrupt our plans, and we really have this has to happen. So, he starts everything, he gets everything going. Then, Bo and Caleb are captured. And I said a couple weeks ago, part of me is worried about the current group, but I'm like, what happens if, some like Bo
Yeah.
or Caleb or any of the characters from the previous, campaigns die?
Yeah.
Because sounds like, to me, like what you've continued to say is that you feel like this story is a continuation of the second season. Some of the stuff that he wasn't able to kind of like story wise kind of get out because there was other elements that kind of happened, and he just went where the players took it. But everything's coming together, and it's coming together really fast and very scary. So, Ren's lost her arm. Caleb and Bo are caught, and Ludinus makes a big deal about catching Caleb because
Oh yeah.
Caleb's been this, I guess, wizard that's been after him this whole time, and they've been, and at some point Ludinus was in prison. So I think it's gonna get crazy, and then time speeds up, and then the moon's above them, which is really scary. And then, of course, the sky ship doesn't end up working like we kind of knew it wouldn't, just from kind of, what Matt has been trying to, loosely kind of hint at. But
I think there's other reasons that it didn't work too, but yeah. In addition to Matt, dude, we'll get there. I don't want to get too far ahead of my theory, but yeah, it doesn't work, and it's really sad that they lose the ship and it didn't work the way they wanted it to work. Like, it's still demolished. So
I mean, I guess the best part is that it killed a bunch of people in the process. That could later add more fuel. I don't know. I don't.
But they could have been innocent people. We don't know like who all the people there were, right? So, not that they were completely innocent. They were in part of all this stuff. So, but we don't know what the circumstances were, as we cut a little bit of that from before. So, yeah, it's rough. Well, let's keep going, because can't stop now. Lots of stuff happening. Maybe. There we go. All right, in the pit, first tunnel. It's beginning. So this monologue I thought was really well done. So the speech starts going. He starts telling everybody about why the gods aren't necessary and all that stuff. He says, mortals surpassed their powers and found their own power. The matron of ravens killed one of the other gods and became them. So ever since, the gods have feared their children. The calamity was a punishment for following their own will, and now the gods are hiding in fear behind the divine gate, basically. So while that's happening, Imogen commands the golem to release Caleb, but now he wears a silence collar. Laudna and Ashton go to another tunnel, and they're working to try to destroy as many arcane cores as they can, try to shut the power down, basically. Orem frees FCG. He's able to kind of do some Orem stuff and acrobat his way over there and get FCG out. Imogen links up with Liliana telepathically, and they talk about it, and she even says, better halves make better whole, trying to make her remember this connection, that it doesn't have to be this way, but Liliana says this is the only way that they can be free. Another explosion goes off because of Ira's shenanigans. Liliana casts banishment on Ira, sends him back to the Fey Realm. Ludinus continues, looking at FCG and saying that he was given life not by a god, but by mortal creators. And Ludinus claims that have worked selflessly for 1,000 years to shatter the chains of fate. Man. And then he will gladly be their villain if it means that they will be free, if they have liberation. So sounds of fighting kind of are coming from the top of the pit. The Ashari are there now. Laudna and Ashton explode more of the cores. They're doing what they can there. Liliana tells Imogen that it's already done. Ludinus is stronger than her. So, yeah. Thoughts?
I mean, of course he has a evil villain monologue, on and on and on, as if he's already got all these people doing all this crap for him anyways. Why does he even, whatever.
I tell you why he's doing it. Like, there's two reasons he's doing it. Number one, because Matt is brilliant, and two, and what I mean by that, he's interspersing the monologue with the other stuff. He's timing it perfectly.
Yeah.
He's like cinematic, but also he's timing it. He's stretching things to the right moment in time for those things to happen. This is my thought about this. Like, he could just, flip the switch.
Right.
So it seems as if it's just, for me at least, this is just my theory. I could be completely wrong. It seems as if he's doing evil villain monologue, which he is, and I think that's part of it. But the second part is he knows exactly when the events are going to occur. So he's talking long enough to make those things happen at the time they're supposed to happen. That's my thought.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm getting from it, at least.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting that he says it's his life's goal, which is 1,000 years working towards doing this. And, it's one of those things where it would be interesting to know how much of that 1,000 years was congruent, or how much of it was, timeline messed with, spread out, popped around with the Dudamancy, and the
exactly
Luxons.
What I think it is.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think the fact that he's been a key player this whole time, where the Luxons are involved, all season 2, they were searching for these Luxons and trying to get them back to, where they're supposed to be. And I just feel like this has been his overarching, goal.
Yeah.
And why he was trying his best to learn as much as he could. And he was kidnapping, scientists and, or alchemists or whatever you want to call them, and trying to figure out like how it worked exactly so that we could get this moment. So it'll be, I think it's going to be crazy, because we don't really know everything that he knows, obviously.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I think you hit nail on the head with a lot of what you just said, especially about the timing of it. It's time. It's all about time, I think.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump back over. Getting close here. All right. So he monologued. This was really interesting. So Ludinus calls out to the Rudisborn, saying they carry the seeds of Prodothus' power, and then and it's to break the bonds. That's their true purpose. But then they all start to have this red glow and giving off this red energy from all the Rudisborn. So Imogen, Fern, Liliana, Odahan, anybody that is Ludisborn, and they're unleashing the power of the gods by feeding this energy back.
Well,
speaking of the power being unleashed, I hope everybody could hear that. We got 2 cats. You've seen one, and the other has joined it in battle right now. We're probably going to get it from my mic and her mic. Ooh.
Sounds like a jungle cat.
It does.
We've got a jaguar in the living room.
It's like Battle Cat in there. Oh my goodness.
Anyways.
I wish, yeah. So, hopefully we'll have 2 cats when this is over.
Oh my goodness.
They can't stop. They're still going. Oh man. All right, we'll see. The squirt bottle.
Oh my goodness. I just squirted it off into the wild blue yonder. Maybe the sound.
Marshall.
The sound is always good enough to get them to stop. Anyways, I was hoping maybe just the sound of it sloshing.
No, see, Marshall, they rolled initiative. See,
woo, tearing it up.
Yeah. Thanks, Marshall. That was perfect. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so true. Okay, so all that's happening. But again, Ludinous simply says right on time. She's right on time when Keyleth shows up. And she shows up in the earth elemental form and telling him to stop. And she also casts mass heal wounds on the people around her, which is great. But then things take a little bit of a turn because Ludinous, powerful enough, casts Power Word Stun, freezes her in place. Odahan comes out, and the 3 shadow forms come out with her. Ambushes Keyleth, strikes her over and over again, basically dropping her down out of elemental form, and then really close to dying with her regular hit points, basically after the elemental form.
Yeah.
And then as Odahan is going for the killing blow, you see the dark flash, the cloak of feathers, blocks the sword, and the champion of ravens, Vax'ildan, is there, protecting his beloved, and says, "Don't you even dare." He tells the legend of the peaks, Odahan Thul, basically slow your roll, and that's kind of this section here. So let's pause for a second. Let me pop back over to the chat. So this was big, right? So this was I think it threw everybody at the table when this happened.
Well, all I have to say is when Keyleth showed up, I was like, yes. Everybody at the table was like, yes, this is awesome. This is great. And then Odahan attacked her and we're like, oh no. Like, and attacked. Like,
I remember
6
you even
times?
Saying, like, you're like, Keyleth might die. And I was like, yeah, I know Keyleth.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sitting there. I think I was even crying at a certain, I was like, yeah. Because she had so many things. This is the whole reason why this whole time I've been like, do not reapproach Odahan. She will kill you. Because whatever powers she has, first of all, she's made a name for herself on her own merit. She has that extra seed with having the, Predathos powers or whatever. Who knows what the whole backpack, dudamancy, all that stuff. She's pretty much like a super, super souped up fighter, I mean, she's just like accent shirt. She's just taken so many hits against Keyleth, and they're all hitting and they're all huge, and Keyleth knocks out of her elemental form, and then it's like she's almost dead, and then Vax pops in. And at that point, I'm like, oh, okay.
I know, I was there.
And I'm sitting there like, on the edge of my seat pretty much because it's getting good.
Yeah, it's getting great.
Yeah.
All right,
it's getting awesome.
We gotta go to the next section because this all fits together so well. All right, so feathers. Ruidus. All right. At this point, Orem leaps down next to Odahan and basically is trying to take out the backpack with all the stuff. Yeah. So he's doing a great job at it, but it's barely holding on. Chetney goes to werewolf form, goes starts climbing up.
He climbed up the key. Yeah.
Missed Ludinous, I think, or tried to. So as Ludinous blocks him, I think threw up a shield and then got speared on the key itself. Fern and Imogen try to destroy the backpack. They both miss. Imogen keeps begging her mom to help, says, this is for the best. And Ludinous says it's time for the final piece, the sliver of divinity, the lens. If we remember back, Iris said there was a missing lens.
Yeah.
Here is the missing lens. And he cast a spell on Vax, and bright energy comes from all the different mirrors, and then it triggers something, and he's compressed into a sphere of a dark shadow, and Liliana telekinetically places him into the sphere at the top of the machine to act as the final lens. And this is it's crazy. So there's a lack of power in the machine, and another explosion goes off. Ludinus says it will have to do, and the skyships from Vasselheim appear. Ruidus close, and the Ruidusborn freeze in place, acting as the batteries. They fill the energy into the spire, and then Ludinus says they will destroy what will unmake them, and a red beam shoots out of the key, and the machine begins to spark. He looks a little nervous, and then he laughs. The ley lines spark, and the sky erupts in colors before exploding into like this all-encompassing white.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep going if that's okay, because we can talk about the whole thing at once. And because this is the end here, as everybody gets their vision back, it's Laudno, Ashton, Orem are in one group on the side of a rocky cliff. Sulfurous, acidic smell, just unfamiliar. There's geysers and stuff. They have no idea where they are. FCG Fern, Chetney, and Imogen are transported to a snowy desert in the mountains. And Chetney recognizes it as the Crystal Sands tundra just outside of Flocket Alps, and his hometown is near there of Uthadern. And so they're on the other side of the world from Marquette, and the ley lines are still dancing across the sky, and the apogee solstice is still in effect, it appears to be, but the party this time is definitely split, not by their own making.
Right.
And that's where things close down. Let me check the chat real quick. My heart sank right at the power word stun. Yeah, absolutely. As soon as power word stun happened, then I started wondering, does he also have power word kill? But Matt rolled for 3 minutes straight just for Odahan's attacks. I mean, yeah, absolutely, just heart-wrenching to see like all that stuff happen at once, especially when it's again. And I couldn't even imagine what it was like to be in Marisha's shoes, because it's against her character and she's not controlling the character at the moment, and that's got to be really rough. I mean, they all trust Matt, but it's still like that's a hard thing to do, to watch your character just get beat down when you don't have any option to help. Really. So okay, so I know my theory, and we've been kind of talking about it here and there, but let's hear what you think about how this whole thing ended, and then I'll jump into mine. I want you to have a chance to kind of go first.
Well, I feel like just as quick as there was some relief that Vax popped in, there was horror at him becoming this sphere of divinity. And then it's like, oh my gosh, okay, like, does that, I mean, he's already dead, right? Like, he's already dead. He already died several times, yes. I think, right? I mean, like, he's so, I mean, is there even any hope of them being able to get him out of that? I mean, is there, I mean, like, there's so many questions about that. And then, I think Keyleth is still completely like laid out on the floor. Like, we don't hear from her again after this whole stuff happens, which I'm sure, well, maybe we won't, because the party's gone and it's split in half and flung across the world from each other. But, it's like sitting there watching in horror, like, just as quick as I've got a little hope. Even though this whole time I have said, I really think that it's still going to happen. I think that Predathus is still going to be let loose. It is interesting, though, that the group I do think combined, they did enough things that I think that we're still iffy on whether or not there's enough power to do as much as what Ludinus would want to do.
Like it fell a little short, maybe, of what he
was and I think that's why he was nervous, because the power cores were exploded. So then he was pretty much using all of the Ruidusborn, their power, to try to power the key. So it will be interesting to see if that's enough.
And if they still have it, if they still have their
Right.
power, like did
Yeah,
it get taken from them? I'll let you respond to Laura. Makes a really great comment here, and if you can see it on your screen right now, if you're looking at the screen, not on your phone, but just on, you should be able to see it here.
Yes.
Matt specifically said a familiar white. The same thing happened after the first interaction with Odahan, and Imogen destroyed a whole block of buildings. I'm thinking either Imogen or her mom. This is a really great, it's a great call out. I remember that white vision right after Laudna died and the whole Imogen explosion. So good call out there. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, my thoughts on that are they were all paralyzed and their powers were being like used to power this thing. So I personally think that it's a reflex that Imogen has. I don't think it's something that she consciously does. I think that we saw that kind of with the last thing that happened where she blew up the block after Odahan attacked. I don't think it's her mom. I think it's her. Because again, he said familiar. And while we think that Liliana's powers are probably really similar to Imogen's, we don't really know exactly what she can do. So I'm just going to go with my theory that it's Imogen.
Yeah, I think you could be right. I think
reflexively trying to save her, her group. So
that might be it. Yeah. Okay. So we've talked about this. I'm going to try to put this in as best frame I can. I almost feel like I need to write this down to kind of keep it straight, but I'll just talk it out. So theory is, from the beginning of this, or even from the last few episodes, we talked about how there has been this ongoing sort of moat of possibility, dunamancy stuff since the second campaign. Like since even they found the first dodecahedron, when they found the first thing, like, and then they would gaze into it, and when, if you remember second season or second campaign, they would gaze into it and they would see themselves in all these different alternate realities. Sorry, I want to bring in Loris. Totally agree with you, Crystal. Makes perfect sense. Crystal always makes sense. It's always a good call to agree with Crystal. Yeah, good call. But yeah, no, I think you're right too. I think it's likely there. But to get back to what I was thinking is, like, this whole mode of possibility thing is seeing different things. I think the different realities are different timelines, possibly. It also happened again when they looked in with
Ashton,
when he was looking in and being able to see different things because he has the dunamancy in his brain. So I think dunamancy is so tied to gravity and time and all these things. And just so happened, like, that one before our last show, we had watched Edge of Tomorrow, which is due with time travel and the person dies and comes back, whatever. Think Groundhog Day if you've seen that movie. So even if that's not exactly what's happening, if Ludinus has had the experience to be able to see enough alternate timelines that he knows exactly what needs to happen for the events to line up the way he wants, he's planned all these things. That's why they kept saying, like, even, some of the attacks were false fronts to get people to go do different things. And those were all planned to get different involvement, so he wanted them to go to Keyleth. He of course, wanted, right? Yeah. He sent Odahan to go kill Esteros.
Yeah.
He had to have the airship. He had to have all of the things that they did. They've all been set into motion by things that he knew would happen. And so he's able to plan ahead because he can see the future, or has already been there, depending. And that's why it's that, like you said, it could be not necessarily sequential thousands of years. It could be he's lived that, come back, lived that, come back, or whatever. I mean,
or watched
the same thing.
Like it could be he's
Exactly.
watched that much.
Yeah. Well, and even if he has done it, again, if you think about what, and this is why I think it's so perfect that he has such a disdain for Caleb. Caleb at the end of the second campaign was very close to manipulating time, going back, saving his parents. And he destroyed everything so that it wouldn't happen because he said it was against the laws of nature, it was against what needed to happen, all of those things. He had already and Caleb had Liam more specifically had planned that path for his character like for a long time, long play on
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
from writing the notes in the book and all the things that he did. And so I really feel as if, I've, like we said before, I think this was probably going to be, I want to jump in. So Laura's got another one. I think this theory has been floated around, but with Keyleth being the bait for Vax, yeah, maybe we finally understand why the Arashari were attacked all those years ago. Absolutely. So, like maybe that was another way of drawing Vax'ildan out, because they needed that piece of the key. They needed the divine to be able to finish the key to make it work. Because if you're going to pierce the divine cage, you may need this divine essence. And when Vax became what he is, basically this powerful being tied to a god that was not always a god, that's the ingredient in this spell, so to speak, that they needed to make it work. So Laura, I think you're absolutely right. Like,
Yeah.
and sorry if I'm not saying I'm the first to get this. So if you've seen this theory before, totally, I'm not taking credit for it because I'm not really on Reddit a lot. I don't really follow. So if this is, I'm glad if some other people are thinking this, it just makes me think maybe I'm on the right track. But yeah, it's good to hear. Okay, let's see. Either to potentially draw out Vax or just to tangle Keyleth and the Ashari to the plans. Yeah, absolutely. Just to have them grouped in. And the fact that like Orem is tied to that as well. Who knows how far down the road he was seeing with that attack,
Yeah.
killing Orem's husband and do all, like, who knows?
Well, and who really knows like how many feelers he put out there to try and draw someone like Vax'ildan to this moment. Maybe all of these other things that they've been doing is to bring out people of power so that they can make sure that he can make sure he's got enough, the perfect person to do this with. But I totally agree that like Keyleth was an essential part.
Yeah.
I think this whole time Vax has been the plan. I really do.
I first saw. Listen, I don't even want the credit either, and I'm just glad that we're all thinking along the same paths. It just means that we're on the right track, right? So
Right.
I'll give you credit for bringing it to our attention at least. So thanks for sharing. I'm just glad that like again that we're all thinking the same thing. But even if we aren't, it's cool to kind of like we had our theory that we did about Laudena's patron, right? So like we had, and it turned out that we were kind of right in how that worked.
Mostly,
know, about her being a phylactery, basically. So, but yeah, I think it's such a well constructed plot line that has still left agency in the players' hands. The players haven't been railroaded to make choices. This is such a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
As a DM trying to play a game to let things fall into place, you kind of have the advantage of knowing what the players are doing, so you can adjust some things. But man, like I said, I think that we've talked about it. I think this was likely in the works since campaign 2. Had had Molly not died, this may have been the end of campaign 2,
right?
Instead of what we got, which is, I'm happy with what we got, but like it may have been this instead. He was planting those seeds with all of the the Luxon stuff and everything else. So
and I'm just gonna say this because this is how I feel right now. F Imogen's mom, like, girl, bye. Because she could have helped And I had a feeling she wouldn't, but I was really hoping for Imogen's sake she would, because she really, really, really wants to have a relationship with her mother. And I feel like she's just a coward, you know, like she's just like, he's stronger than me. I can't, it's done. We can't do anything about it. I'm so, you could, like, the timing has to be right. Like, certain things have to line up. You could do something, but no.
Yeah. It makes you wonder, like, you know how, like, we were talking about earlier, like, do they have something on them? Like, in other words, are people being blackmailed or coerced in certain ways? Who's the better manipulator than the person that can know what's going to happen?
Yeah.
That person can manipulate anybody. If they really know, here are the events that will likely happen if these things occur, they can plant so many seeds and make it work the way they want it to. So I'm not cutting her mom any slack. I definitely didn't last show. I said I just think she might be the bad guy. But I do. But now on the, I think we may have switched, because now I'm like, I'm almost to the point where I'm like, what has he done that made her go this hard in this direction? Like, what has he said to her because of what he said he could see? And maybe he showed her how to see it too.
Right.
And she sees saving her daughter by doing what they're doing.
Well, I think it's like any cult. You know, I think it's like any cult.
Yeah.
They give you some little nibbles, and then the next thing
Yeah.
you know, you're their general, because you
Yeah.
just so much want to believe that what they told you and showed you is what's really happening, when in reality he's seen so many different possibilities of what could happen. How would he even know what is really going to happen or not? You know, I mean, I think she's just convinced. And I think that she has invested so much time. I think she's done so many things that she's probably ashamed of as like a person for the cause, because many people have died. If she's his general, she has killed people. She has sent people to kill people, if nothing else. She has orchestrated things in a way. Maybe she's taken people, you know, kidnapped. Who knows? Who knows what she's done? You know, how many people did she line up to brand, you know, for the cause? But I just think she feels like there's nothing else that she can do, because even if she wanted to change, she can't at this point, because she has gotten herself too far down. She can only think that what she's been told is right, because she has done so many horrible things that the only way is to convince yourself that in the end, good will happen. Good will come of it.
Yeah, I'm not letting her off the hook at all. I'm just really curious about what are the ways in which he's doing it. You know what I mean? Like, what are the strings that he's turning? Let's see. Laura says, I'm a huge believer in giving the benefit of the doubt and trying to see the other perspective, but Liliana has just crossed too many lines. Yeah, I get it.
Yes.
But true, we don't know her full intentions. I think it's, like I said, I don't want to cut her any slack on what her actions are. I'm more curious about what he's doing to manipulate. Like how he's pulling the strings, because I think that says a lot about, it'll tell us a lot about how he's running all of this, right? Like how he's making people change the way he's making people change. And it is weird. Like, this is the one thing it's why I love like the whole concept of like when you're playing D&D of having like different cults and stuff is, because like unlike the real world, there's like actual magic in D&D, like where you like you can actually like get power and do stuff, so it becomes like this whole nother level. Like,
there is actually a vision that you can project to someone, an illusion. You know,
they can really have magic powers, like you can actually fireball people and stuff. So it's another level. But the fact that you can, even with that being said, the fact that you have something so interesting that like it's a psychological power instead of the actual power. It's the psychological manipulation that he's doing instead of here's what the power is, because all he's really promising is a life free from the gods and free from this, and they keep saying free from fate, right? Like they're trying to like separate themselves from fate. And it's just really interesting to me, because it's almost like the more lewdness is tied with this whole dunamancy and the time thing and seeing the modes of possibility, the more he doesn't want that to happen. Like the more he wants to be not a part of it. So it's almost like, like the whole, what are the Fate Weaver?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. So maybe that's where that comes from. Was it the Fate Weaver was the god that's not? Who was the god? I can't remember.
There was
were
the
two
Fate
gods,
Weaver
right?
and the Fate Stitcher. The Fate Weaver is the god, and I think Fate Stitcher was Nana Mori,
Yeah.
where she was saying she could do small bits of things around Faith, whereas I think it would, the other guy, it was the Fate Weaver. I think you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Which makes me think that if you're talking about Fate, the Fate Weaver, like maybe that's where the Dunamancy really is coming from, like fate and time, and whether or not you can make these choices or not, or the multitude of choices. I don't know. It's just real. I'm really interested to see where this goes. Here's the thing: the way this ended, I'm also curious because we know that they're in separate locations.
Yeah.
Are they in a new time?
I don't think so, because the one group can still see the moon. The one group can still see Ruidus with the beam going up to it, the red beam.
Because of the solstice is happening.
Right. So I think
but
that they're...
solstice?
I mean, now, that
is it the current one?
That
is it the
group.
One from the past?
That doesn't mean that the other group might be somewhere else. Who knows? They might all be, they might be scattered.
Yeah, no, I get it. And this may be a long shot, but is it possible that they time shifted to another solstice point in time? Like if the solstice happens every however many years, is it possible that they shifted to that other one? Who knows? Like it could be a shifted point in time. It would suck if they're on two different times in different locations.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious about how this is going to play out. So I don't know, but yeah, lots going on here. And they just I don't know if you saw it, but if you haven't caught it, they released a video. They just rolled their hit points for 9th level and went up to level 9. So
yeah,
you can go on there. They just did a quick video. So everybody watching, make sure you go check out the Critical Role channel. You'll get a chance to see.
At this point, you're kind of like,
leveling up.
What are we gonna do with it?
Yeah.
We're so far away.
Little minor spoiler: they all rolled okay. So for hit points, so that's good. Because we need them to have as many hit points as they can get. So,
and it didn't say like when the groups got flung, they got separated and flung. They didn't see any of the other people. It was just them. So that's another reason why I think it's Imogen, because I don't think that Liliana would know everybody in the group.
I think you're onto something. But the reason that I think that there may be either some type of time shift or some other issue is because she hasn't been able to control it. It's only been when it's like a wild magic surge for her, right? Like where it's like, boom, this happens, the white, so I think you and Laura are on
maybe
the same
that was
page
part
as
of
far as,
it.
like,
Maybe that was part of the roll was however she rolled. Maybe she rolled and that happened, but then the group got split,
Yep.
I don't know.
All right. Well, we will we'll see how this turns out.
I'm worried for next game.
Me too. I'm excited about it though. I'm worried and I'm into it, but I'm also like, I get excited about this stuff. Like I'm like, I want to see how it plays. Like I look at it not only from watching as a show, but I also look at it from like playing the game. I try to get better as a DM and a player, and I'm also like, this is really interesting because not only is
that's
it a
so
story,
cool.
this is a game of D&D, and I'm like, oh, the fact that you can do this in the hobby that we love, you can tell these kinds of stories, is pretty amazing. So all right, well, everybody in the chat, Laura in the chat, anybody else that's been in and out joining us, thank you so much for sticking with us. And the rest of you, if you have any theories, drop them in the comments. We would love to hear about your theories. If I'm completely wrong, tell me why I'm wrong. I want to learn what you think. So yeah, and then we'll all find out if I'm right or wrong. So yeah. All right, everybody, have a great night, and we'll see you next time.